Okay, let's talk about rumors fresh baked. There's a few that I've been sitting on, and they're now starting to warm up just a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about the Disneyland trams and some hints that there may be a future for them after all. We've got some whispers about Fantasmic, and not necessarily about when they'll return, but perhaps how they'll return. And out of left field completely is a rumor about the long out of order Jolly Trolley. All this coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Baked. You know, I've been promising a video about rumors, and I think today is the day that we're going to get to this. And of course, first, we're going to talk about the trams because everybody wants to know what is happening with the Disneyland trams. And there are a few interesting new nuggets to this story, some old stuff, but some new stuff. And we'll lead off with something that I've been hearing now I've heard from multiple sources, and that is the reason why we haven't seen them so far. Obviously, it doesn't have anything to do with COVID. We're long past anything in the parks having anything to do with COVID. No, we haven't seen them because they're basically unrunnable, at least not without, extensive work. And this might be due, this is something that I've heard multiple times also, this might be due to the fact that they didn't get any kind of, routine maintenance in the, year and a half that the parks were closed. Nobody was taking care of the trams. And so they kind of fell into disrepair a little bit. Well, more than a little bit. They don't run. Now, we had heard something like this a while back, but that was more related to tires and just sort of routine type stuff. It didn't sound as bad then as it does today. And at the time, the debate was whether or not they would refurbish the trams. Now, these trams are already 20 years old, which is about their normal life. Was whether to refurbish them or to just buy a new fleet. But of course, neither of those options are particularly easy in the eyes of Disney, because here we are almost 6 months into the parks being reopened and we still don't have a tram. In fact, it has seemed like up until now that they're not even interested in doing that. They seem to be quite happy letting us walk it's about a mile from the parking structure to the front gate. Now, obviously, none of us are happy with that walk, and I would imagine that Disney has probably heard more than a few complaints, something that we had suggested people do, because the trams are an important part of the Disneyland experience, not just because of its, the nostalgia or whatever, but it's functionally necessary. The parking structure is so far, and to ask guests to walk there and back is just, well, okay, let's not get into that yet. One rumor that we heard was that Disney was planning to import trams from Disney World. But I'm not sure how likely that scenario is because, for one thing, the Disneyland trams aren't running at Disney World either, so I'm not even sure if they have trams to spare. Whether or not that happens, we can say, or at least it looks like we can say that things are happening here at Disneyland, at least if you believe the report of this update that was posted to Mice Chat. For that update, they have a tram solution ready to go. That's not the problem anymore. There's a new problem, that's getting the trams fueled. A new fueling tank has been built inside the Pixar Palace parking structure. You can see it on the right-hand side as you pull into the structure. But that would mean closing the Pixar Palace entrance, at least according to the poster on Mice Chat, as that area would be needed for the tram traffic to enter and get their fuel. Now, one thing, though, is that it isn't necessarily true, I don't think, that they have to close the Pixar Palace entrance in order to do this. It does seem like there would be probably room for both. There's 4 total lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction. It's possible they could use just 2 of those lanes for the trams, leaving the other 2 for either incoming or outgoing traffic, depending on the time of day. And this is not without precedence. The Manchester flyover is just 2 lanes, but it's also used for both directions. In the morning, it's for incoming traffic, and then in the evening, it's for outgoing traffic. Either way, what is true, it seems like, is that there is a plan, there is a future for the Disneyland trams. They're working on it, and thank goodness, because as I mentioned, the walk from the parking structure to the front entrance is just brutal. And I can't think of a better way for Disney to show that they love their guests by making this happen again. Conversely, I can't think of a better way or a worse way for them to show that they don't care. So this is a pivotal moment for Disney. It's a pivotal issue for Disney because it tells us which side of the fence they're on. Are they pro-guests or not? I'm going to say that they are pro-guest because I do think we are getting a tram. I just don't know. I don't have no idea on the timeline right now. But it does sound like it's at least at the front of their minds as opposed to the back of their minds now. Okay, Let's talk about Fantasmic next. No, I'm not going to talk about when it's coming back. As far as I understand, still best case scenario is 2022. Whether that's early 2022 or in the spring or something like that, I'm not sure. Right now, I'm guessing somewhere around February. But what I do want to talk about is the fact that the Columbia has been closed. The Columbia was down for refurb when the parks first reopened. The Columbia did not. It was getting refurbed. And now it's down again. It's down again for refurb. And the question of the time was, when they announced that, was why? Why is the Columbia going down for refurb again when it was just reopened not long ago? It's only been open for like a month maybe. Well, the answer may be this. We may be seeing the return of the Peter Pan segment on the Columbia when the show reopens. Now, I'm not sure if this is permanent or if this is a temporary thing, sort of a welcome back to Fantasmic thing, but it would explain why the Columbia is back, because they would have to, if they're going to do a new segment, if they're going to redo that segment, then they would have to redo all the rigs, all the wiring, all the safety measures. All of that has to be recalibrated, as it were, on the Columbia in order to do that show, because it's different than the show that they did for Pirates. And this feels like it would be a good move on Disney's part. It feels like it would be another guest-centric decision, because I do think that the majority of Disneyland fans and Fantasmic fans, they didn't exactly love the Pirates segment, and they much preferred the Peter Pan segment. I didn't mind the Pirates segment. It was okay for me, but I think I did. I would be happier if we had Peter Pan, and I think a lot of people would agree. So we'll keep watching. Right now, this hasn't gone past the rumor stage. I haven't been able to vet this with anybody else, but it does align with the observable clues that we have in the park, i.e. the Columbia. And that's something that I pay attention to when trying to personally vet rumors that I've heard. Does what I see in the park agree with the things that I'm hearing? And this is one of those situations. All right, with that said, let's talk about our final rumor today, and that is the Jolly Trolley. Now, it's interesting because I would imagine that there's probably at least a small segment of our guests, a small percentage, who may not even know what the Jolly Trolley is, or if they did know what it is or was, that they didn't know that it actually ran. It was an attraction that would run through the land, through ToonTown. That is until a tragic accident occurred and forced them to close it. Now, I'm not going to get into that story, but I will say that one thing I do know for sure is that the actual physical trolley is coming back. Right now, it's just a station with no train. It was being used last as a DVC sales kiosk. Before that, the trolley was there, but it was permanently parked, and it was just used as a photo op or for a place for people to sit down. But I can confirm that the trolley has been going under an extensive refurb, new paint, etc., and it looks great. It's just sitting backstage, waiting for its opportunity to go back on stage. The only question is, did that refurb include making it operational? Would Disney make it operational? The tracks are still there, of course, and all it would take is just a little bit of planning, a little bit of effort to make it safe again for everybody. And it would be lovely, I have to say, to be able to see the Jolly Trolley running again in ToonTown. It would go a long way towards making me feel like I want to go to ToonTown again. Back in the day, the train would take off from the station and it would head for the fountain over there on the Gadget side of the land, I think, if memory serves. I'm not positive on this, but it would head for and then go around that fountain. And then it would return in the direction of the station, then go past the station and head for the Roger Rabbit side of the land and go around that fountain. Then back to the station again, where it would park and be ready for its next guests. The only problem that I can foresee right now is where would you put the guests? Where would you queue people? Because there's not a lot of space there for a queue. And I would imagine that there's some demand for that. I would want to ride that train immediately and many times. So that would be the only thing I could think of. But I'm sure that's a situation that they could probably remedy. They're smart at that kind of thing. And they did it before, obviously, because they had it running at one point. But it would be great if they did, because one of the things that I was concerned with when they announced that they were building Runaway Railway in ToonTown instead of at DCA was why they had decided to do that. Why would you build this super amazing, expensive ride in a land that is dead in the eyes of a lot of Disneyland guests? But if the early signs of the TLC the land is getting, the updates to Roger Rabbit, and perhaps, maybe, bringing back the Jolly Trolley, you tell us, FreshBaked, does this excite you at all, the idea of the Jolly Trolley coming back, the idea of Peter Pan replacing Pirates again in Fantasmic? What about the tram? Has the lack of a tram affected how you feel about Disneyland? Or has it affected how often you go? Does it keep you from going, the lack of a tram, keep you from going to the park as often as you want to? Let us know in the comments below, and then follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDizzy, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDizzy. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And FreshBaked.